Notre Dame held its annual Irish Invasion camp on June 2nd right here on Notre Dame's campus. I'm Mike Singer. It's Tyler Horka. We're going to talk about some of the key storylines. Folks, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content, and you can go to blueandgold.com for much more on this in the written format. So, man, there really is a ton to talk about, Tyler. We're going to try to keep this brief, but man, I would say the biggest storyline for me is just seeing the two Notre Dame quarterback commits there. You had Deuce Knight, who's been committed to the Irish since September. Noah Grubbs, who had just committed to Notre Dame the day before. I thought they both had strong performances. Both looked really good. Physically, athletically, throwing the ball downfield. And I also thought it was pretty neat to see Deuce Knight go out and seek to introduce himself and talk to Noah Grubbs' family. So Notre Dame getting not only really good quarterbacks, but awesome men off the field. Yeah, Tyler, ton to talk about. You wrote a story on Sunday evening from some things that you took away. Why don't you tell us about those?
Yeah, one more comment on the quarterbacks, though. Riley Leonard is there. Yep. Steve Angeli's there. Obviously, quarterbacks coach Gino Gaduli, and it was just kind of cool to see all of those guys interact. Present Notre Dame quarterbacks. Riley Leonard is the one-year rental, obviously, so he's kind of doing his thing. But then you have the future of the Notre Dame quarterback contingent as well in Knight and Grubbs. So I just thought it was very cool to see all those guys. There were a ton of quarterbacks at this camp, but you knew which two had Irish futures, and it was nice and Knight and Grubbs, and it stood out that way.
Yeah, and there was a period where they started out doing testing and everything, and there was 45 minutes or so between testing and actual individual drills. I don't know what was going on there, but those guys were all hanging out. The current quarterbacks, the committed quarterbacks, Gino, some of the coaches. It really was cool to see. I know, when you guys meet or when the media gets to talk to the quarterbacks and stuff, they talk about how tight-knit of a group it is. Sometimes you're not sure what to believe when it comes to those press conference type things because, of course, people are going to say those things. With the quarterbacks, I 100% buy it. I think that is a very strong room in terms of close friendships. O-line, D-line. I wasn't watching those guys a ton. I kind of had Tyler doing it. But Tyler, why don't you tell me what you saw from those guys?
Well, yeah, when I first walked in, it's kind of the first thing that I saw. So I was like, you know what, I'll stand here and watch these guys for a minute. First of all, I just love the way that Joe Rudolph coaches, and I think he's very engaging, and the way that he just kind of facilitates a drill. There's some coaches who are good at it. There are some that are like, okay, I can't stand here all day. I could stand there all day with Rudolph. So that was cool. I thought Cameron Herron kind of stole the show. He's from Warren Central down in Indianapolis. Doesn't have his Notre Dame offer yet, but I think he has offers from places like Iowa and some of these, big-time schools that pump out really good offensive linemen. Notre Dame is one of those. I thought Rudolph kind of took a liking to him, and I love watching these camps as well, Mike, because you can tell which coaches or which players coaches kind of gravitate to and say, okay, maybe I need to be on him, good and bad. Rudolph, Herron, they had that connection going. And then when you watch the one-on-ones, it really, it became evident why Rudolph was so invested in Herron in his time at this camp, because you had some really good defensive linemen there. Yeah. I'm about to talk about Joseph Reif and Dominic Hulak, who were awesome. Herron had really good reps against both of those guys. But then it was cool to see Reif get Herron back. And then I think Hulak had the best kind of sequence of the day when I was watching O-line, D-line. He went up against Herron, won his rep, and then usually with these things, you do a rep, you wait 90 seconds for everyone else to do a rep, and then, okay, I get to do my rep again. Rudolph and all the coaches there, they were like, okay, that was really good. Now you go against 6'7", 345-pound Rico Schreiber, I believe is his name, another guy with all of these offers, and Hulak just went right around him as well. So I think Notre Dame has some really good they're raw in terms of Reif and Hulak, but I think with the right development, the right coaching, those guys can turn into some really good pass rushers. The way I would describe them, they kind of move like tight ends, but they have the physicality of an interior defensive lineman, and they're both going to be edge rushers. So I was impressed by those guys today.
This month last year was when Joseph Reif came to a Notre Dame camp, and from what I was told, Marcus Sherman went over to his coaches and said, why the maybe an expletive, haven't we offered this kid Reef ends up Notre Dame's commitment list a few months later. Now we're recording this video Sunday at 6:30. You guys are watching this at the earliest on Monday afternoon. So as we record this, Braylon Womack was arguably the best overall player at the camp. Yeah, the quarterbacks look great, but the quarterbacks aren't there running around. Like it's a different setting. But those DBs and receivers really getting after it. Braylon Womack from Mississippi is a 2026 safety who, just played corner, kind of did everything. He was a baller. Larry Moon, 2027 class, another defensive back. He picked up an offer, so there was 2 offers that have gone out at the time of recording this video. Man, you just talked about a couple of guys from Illinois. 2 others that I really liked in the 2026 class. Gavin Mueller, I believe in Wheaton, Illinois, and then Zachary Washington was in Naperville. I really like those 2 prospects. The receivers, defensive backs, really strong group. There's more quarterbacks that I liked. You're going to have to find that in an article at blueandgold.com that will likely publish today. But just, it seemed to be a really smooth camp, ran well. I got there around 11:30 and the camp ended around 4. And I knew that going in, and I was kind of like, oh my goodness, this is longer than last year's camp and the year before that. But it went by pretty quickly because, again, it was smoothly ran. It just seemed to go pretty well across the board. There was only a few running backs. Those guys look good, but no one jumped to the top of my mind. I loved Cam Herron, who you talked about. He's probably about my height. I'm about 6'2.5", so he's not the tallest guy, but built like a tank is what I wrote.
Yeah, he had his shorts rolled up, showing off the quads, and as our colleague Jack Sobel said, he has a lot to show off there, so why wouldn't you do that? If you got it, flaunt it type of thing. It's just very impressive. Yeah. Almost like an Emil Wagner type where you just say, you look at him and you say athlete. Yeah. So obviously, wherever he goes, it's going to take some sizing up, some bulking up, but what he's working with in terms of the frame and the physicality and just the pure athleticism, that guy's going to be really good.
Yeah, so Cam Herron, again, I don't know if Notre Dame will offer him. They have 3 offensive line commits. My guess is they won't, but he looked good. There's another 2025 prospect there, Dalen Penson from the Atlanta area, worked out some at receiver, worked out some at corner, someone that Notre Dame offered earlier this year, but we haven't really heard much about him since, to be honest. Maybe, with the strong performance today, which I thought he had some ups and some downs. I liked him more at defensive back than wide receiver. Maybe we see Notre Dame push harder for him, but Notre Dame only has a few spots left in the 2025 class, which we will be writing a lot about this week at blueandgold.com. Notre Dame has a big official visitor weekend, June 7th through the 9th, and then June 14th through the 16th. So you can find all about it at blueandgold.com. Really appreciate you guys for watching this video. As always, we'll catch you next time.